Hello and welcome to the Give Me the Remote podcast. It's episode 59 and we're here just before Easter on Thursday the 9th of April 2020 in lockdown, week 2. My name's Sheridan and I'm joined by my lovely co-host John.
Hello everybody and welcome to Give Me the Remote. I hope you're all keeping well and having a good time.
Alright, so I vote we go from bad to good.
Okay.
So what do you think I'm going to start with?
Pre-rating the shows. We're going to talk about The Irishman, I'm guessing.
Oh, we are definitely talking about The Irishman.
Only 3 people in the world have one of these, and only one of them is Irish. You know how strong I made you? I know things.
So The Irishman, Martin Scorsese's... What would you call it? It's basically a film that's made for old people.
By old people.
With old people.
About things that happened that only old people care about.
But some very, very bad computer-generated...
Aging effects.
Anti-aging effects.
Right.
Which is actually the problem, because they all looked like they were out of the Days of Our Lives cast. With that kind of, soft lighting and...
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get into that later, but... How would you describe this film? It's the story of... it's an epic crime drama.
Cinema nerds, when this came out, were all on Twitter about how it was going to destroy cinema because it was a Netflix-only release and it was going to win all the Oscars because it had all the, Oscar winners and it was an epic story. And fundamentally, it's about a transportation union dispute.
Yeah. It's not a very exciting... I can't work out if it's real or not, because they had Jimmy Hoffa in there, but I don't think it's a real story. I think it's a...
It's obviously a dramatisation, but I think they're touching on things that have not been proved in any court of law.
Yeah, it's based on a book, but I don't know how.
There is... I can remember when I was a kid, which is a long time ago, there'd be references in cartoons when I lived in America as a kid that would be about Jimmy Hoffa that I never really got. I just knew it was something that people made jokes about, someone disappearing. But it's... I guess the Teamsters Union was kind of a big deal a long time ago, and this is about that.
They just made it really boring.
And really confusing as well. The timeline's all over the frickin' place.
And it is long.
It is so long.
So long.
The Witcher's timeline is over the place, but it's exciting.
So it's got Pacino, De Niro, Pesci, Harvey Keitel, Ray Romano.
Well, I don't think Ray Romano's ever been mentioned in the same sentence as the others.
Wasn't he? I thought Ray Romano was in Goodfellas.
Was he?
I might be wrong, but I thought he was in a few of those gangster films when he was young. I might be totally wrong on that, actually.
Okay. I mean, the thing is, gangster films should be quite exciting.
Yeah.
It's normally good material.
So it follows De Niro's character as it's sort of like a flashback kind of thing, but there's a lot of storylines in here, and I don't even know. It made no sense to me, actually.
It's hard to care. They're all unlikable.
But they kept doing these flashbacks where they had to obviously de-age them because they're all really old. So they had to have them in their kind of 30s and 40s. But those visual effects were absolutely shocking. They were so shit.
Yeah, see, I didn't mind the visual effects myself. I mean, I didn't think they were great, but they didn't...
They were pretty bad. That was because the film was already bad. You didn't notice how bad the visual effects were.
Yeah. Anyway, this just really goes to prove that cinephiles know nothing about modern entertainment.
It also...
They are clinging to a failed model. And, Scorsese can say, I don't like superhero movies. But,
But look, the thing is, right, there's a lot of... cinema for a long time has been self-referential.
Yes.
And there's a lot of Netflix shows at the moment that are playing into into nostalgia. I mean, like Stranger Things, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This was an opportunity to play into that nostalgia of those epic, awesome gangster flicks from the 80s, basically. I think you'd say prime Scorsese kind of territory.
Yeah.
And it just failed. It was just it couldn't. It took away everything that was likable about those movies.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the pacing of 70s and early 80s movies was really slow by modern standards.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of these, you know, what you do when you reinvent and reinvigorate genres is you take all the good aspects and
Yeah.
you get rid of the bad.
Yeah,
but
and you take what's been
all they
learned
did
and-
was
yeah.
take the bad, which is like the slow, boring pace that was crap,
Yeah.
and overload the film with that.
Yeah, and
did nothing.
too many
that was
characters who
like
didn't really appear to serve any purpose, and
They weren't likable. They weren't even cool.
there wasn't even a coherent plot, as far as I can tell.
But you know, like, gangster movies are meant to have cool people in them, like cool dudes
Well, I
doing
mean,
bad stuff.
To some extent, that was verite. You know, actual gangsters are very ordinary-looking people.
Yeah, but gangster films, you know, they're meant to be like cool guys, like wise guys. Like these guys were not cool.
Or was.
They were just really boring.
Yes. Is there more you want to say about this in modern
I
cinema?
absolutely
Or...
hated this film.
Yeah, right.
What are you giving it?
And you actually have a degree in film studies.
I did a lot of research and assignments on Martin Scorsese. He was one of my favourite filmmakers.
Yeah, and I would say his older stuff, even into the 90s,
Definitely.
was still just very well-made movies, even if you didn't particularly like the genre that he was working in. So in a way, it's kind of sad, and it's also sad that the immense talent on offer here is not being put to greater use in what's probably the last time they're going to be able to get these three guys together.
Well, that's the funny thing. They seem to all get out for Scorsese, but then, you know, if they got out for someone else that was
Tarantino?
Again, I actually find Tarantino to be a bit past his use by date too now.
Well, that's true. He's getting old like the rest of us.
Well, and also he's not moved with the times to make decent films about female characters. His female characters are always completely under the male gaze.
Kill Bill?
It's a man's view of what a tough woman should look like.
Okay. All right. So what would you say is a good movie for female action heroes? I mean, I guess Mad Max springs to mind, but...
Well, that's a whole different topic, I guess.
Okay, sure. Would you say that Mad Max Fury Road, the most recent one...
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. I mean, Aliens is probably...
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a real classic.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, you got to wonder to what extent that's Sigourney Weaver imposing herself on it, but, yeah, I mean, they did cast her, so that's good.
Anyway, there's lots, but I digress. So what are you going to give it?
Oh, 1 star?
I'm giving it 1 star.
I mean, it's better than 0 stars, I guess.
I don't have 0 as a rating.
Okay.
So
doesn't need to go negative.
I would otherwise I would give it 0.
Yeah, right. Okay. You're a strict 1 to 5, no halves.
Yep.
Okay. All right then. So what's next?
Dracula.
There's one thing that he fears. We must discover it.
All you have to do is invite me in.
2020 Netflix TV show. Because you've really got to define what
What
Dracula
Dracula
you're
you're
talking
talking
about.
about.
Because when you Google that, a lot
Yep.
of stuff comes up.
Now this is Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat, so it's a real Doctor Who writers fest.
Oh, I didn't realise this.
Yeah.
This explains a lot.
Okay. And it's a British production and take on Dracula. And it owes a lot of homage to the, again, 70s cinema, the Hammer horror movies that they made, which was a series of, in keeping with what makes good British television, very well written and very well acted, but very low budget.
The sets are always a bit schlocky.
Well, generally with the Hammer ones, the sets aren't too bad because they just use old buildings.
Yeah, but they're a bit sort of there's something a bit cheesy about them.
Yeah.
I think actually that works in this for a while.
Oh, it works. It works quite. That's not a problem for me in this. I think that confined spaces stuff that they do is and old buildings. Again, it works for the subject material, and it pays a lot of homage to this huge string of horror movies that Christopher Lee used to star in as bad guys.
Goes pretty close. Well, it is based on the Bram Stoker Dracula story, quite closely.
The first episode is extremely close, and then it.
And actually, that's the funny thing. That's actually where it falls off.
Yeah, when it tries to start running its own material.
Yeah, so it's only 3 episodes, which it feels longer, doesn't it?
I thought the second episode, once you realise what was going on, was pretty cool.
Third, it drops off though.
Yeah. Yeah,
It actually feels like it should have just been sort of maybe 2 episodes or just a really long movie.
It sort of finishes with Dracula in the future stuff, which is there's still some good bits in it, but it's not as powerful as the first and second episodes. No.
Yeah. I thought Clay's Bang. It's a really weird name.
He's Swedish, I think.
Was a good Dracula.
He was a very good Dracula. I mean, he acted his socks off in it. I did feel that he was basically channeling Jack Davenport, who did a lot of work with Stephen Moffat, particularly in the Coupling series.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true.
A lot of his affectations were very Jack Davenport-ish, which is fine. I like Jack Davenport in Coupling. I like Stephen Moffat writing Coupling. I liked that show quite a lot. And seeing it sort of recapitulated into a Dracula setting, could have done with a bit more Susan, but, it was basically fine.
I think he's a bit more handsome
than Jack. Yeah, certainly more powerful, and I think that goes well for Dracula.
Less, friend's really nice husband vibe.
Yeah.
More dude you want to actually have sex with.
Ooh, okay. All right, there we go. And I did think there was some stuff that going on with here where, again, like those old British horror films, they really relied not on very minimal CGI.
Yeah.
And that can be really good, actually, particularly when there's something as supernatural as a vampire in there. You don't need him riding unicorns around the place. But,
I got to say, with the Dracula, there's not a lot left to explore in the story to me.
I thought they had some useful innovations in this, though.
Like what?
The idea that in absorbing the blood out of people, they absorb their memories. So even though a vampire isn't innately vulnerable to Christian iconography, i.e. hold up a cross or holy water, a vampire can come to believe that because he's consumed the blood of so many people who believe it. And I thought that opened up, although they totally blew it in the finale, where that whole explanation fell apart as well. But, fine, as it went on. And I also thought the idea of Van Helsing as a woman.
That was good, but maybe a bit unoriginal.
Was it?
Well, I mean, that's the thing right now, is like, that's how you refresh everything for the new 2020.
Oh, flip the gender roles. Yeah, so at least they kept, well, not at least, but Dracula stayed as a male Dracula, so it wasn't a complete flip. And I thought...
Well, I know, because it never is a complete flip in the way you really want it to be. It's just on the edges.
No, but I thought she was good, and I thought the way she was done and it worked was good.
It was a good character. She played a good character.
I just loved the way, and I don't think this is too spoily, because obviously there's 3 episodes, so that she's not going to finish him off in the first one. She keeps thinking she's got the rules figured out and she's in control. And I guess maybe this sort of appeals to incels and MRAs a bit, but Dracula always finds a way to stuff with the bossy woman.
Yeah.
And then the final episode set Dracula in either the present day or the near future. I think we could have actually just lived without, I think, the first 2 episodes.
I really liked the first, basically, 1.5 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really into it. I was like, yes, let's watch another one.
Mm.
And then halfway through that second episode, I was just like, you've totally lost me. And I just found myself getting really distracted and bored, and a little bit came back in the third episode when they're wrapping things up, but I don't know, I think they kind of missed the boat.
I do think, despite some obvious flaws, this is a worthy and welcome revisitation of Dracula, and I think it's better than the Bram Stoker's Dracula of the 90s, which admittedly...
With Tom Cruise in it, and Brad Pitt.
That you're thinking of the Vampire Lestat? Interview with the Vampire?
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of the Bram Stoker.
Oh, with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting confused. Yes, you're correct. I think that's right. It's better. What are you going to give it?
Oh, 3.5 stars.
I'm going to give it 3 stars.
Yeah. Moving right along. What's next?
I have to swear to actually say the title of this.
You don't have to swear.
Don't f with cats.
Don't F with cats would do it as well, wouldn't it?
I was on Facebook one day.
And I found this video. I pressed play.
It was the worst video I've ever seen.
He needs to be stopped immediately.
Well, I'm just trying to mix it up a bit.
Okay, all right. Always pushing the boundaries of good taste on this show, Sheridan, with your foul mouth.
Don't F with Cats, Hunting an Internet Killer is a Netflix original 3 8-part series that is honestly just one of the most batshit crazy, twisty-turny series that you'll watch.
Short of Tiger King.
Totally different though.
Oh yeah, utterly different. Way less visible crazy. In fact, it's almost like drinking warm vintage champagne in that it's so slow paced and the characters are so pedestrian. And you start off being like, is this real or is this a dramatization?
I actually thought it was fake.
Yeah.
But it is real. So it follows the manhunt for a Canadian murderer called Luke Magnotta, who is quite actually well known in true crime circles. And I've actually found this because I'm a bit of a true crime buff, but not so full on that I remember all the names of all the killers and whatever. But I watched this whole show and I didn't realise who this guy was until I Googled. And the thing about this show is it's actually not really about Luca's murder. The majority of it is actually about... so Luca produced a video of himself murdering 2 cats.
Well, to put it more in line with the plot, a video appears on the internet of a masked person or a concealed person killing cats.
And so then this group of just random people get together and form a Facebook group to try and find out who this guy is. And they don't know each other.
They just like cats.
They just like cats, and they saw this video and it just disgusted them so much that they formed this internet community to try and hunt this guy down. And Luca gets into this like cat and mouse game with them.
Catch me if you can thing.
Yeah, where he like starts producing more videos of himself murdering cats and like putting it on the internet and being like, ha ha, you can't catch me. And these people just dedicate, I mean, thousands of hours of their life. Like they go
so
through.
They're analysing little bits of background footage, trying to find skyline matches on Google Maps, and which I imagine at some point in the near future will be an automatic function, and that'll change the world in weird ways.
But it's actually, there is this element. And then, so it's only 3 parts. So the first 2 sort of episodes are primarily concerned with that. And then the last episode is about the murder that he undertakes in Canada and the kind of worldwide manhunt.
But it was only basically the cat people who saw him brought to justice. And they were just after the cat thing. But it...
Well, they went to like the Canadian police and basically said, you guys need to do something about this guy because he's going to escalate to murdering someone. And he did. And they kind of ignored him. But there's this kind of... the first 2 episodes I really liked because, you know, I like true crime shows, but the actual really good thing about the first 2 episodes is it's actually this awesome story about internet communities and how people can form bonds. And
also very ordinary people. Extremely ordinary people.
Who have nothing in common, who can work together... through the internet to do something amazing, because you know most people talk about the internet, it actually like decreases our connection with people and makes
that's always been garbage,
you know, but this is actually an example of this has actually brought these disparate group of people together, and like they're probably not friends, but like they've done this amazing thing together, and it's just, I actually found that's a really kind of heartwarming story in the context of this really evil.
I wouldn't question their friendships, to be honest, because even in real life, you know, you work with someone for a year or 2, you develop a bond with them, you stop working with them, you're still friends, but you're not not seeing each other. And that definitely doesn't take away from your friendship, because, you know, when a time comes where you need to reach out to each other or you're able to spend time together, it's all still there.
Yeah, true.
And I feel I wouldn't diminish these people's bond and friendship with each other. But, you know, very few friendships are 100% full-time all the time, and they'd be weird if they were.
Yeah, I guess it's just this... I just really liked seeing that this was an example of the internet bringing people together for something positive and challenging and really difficult. Yeah, I actually thought it was a really just interesting aspect of the story.
And the great arguments that they all had recorded of that they were having with various police departments all over the world, with police being like, who are these random crazy people getting in touch with us?
I mean, the main woman who goes by the name of Bodhi Moving, after the Beastie Boys song. I mean, it's just like, and so, I mean, she identifies as, like, she doesn't refer to herself in real life like that, but that was her handle online. And so everyone calls her Bodhi. And it's just, you know, like, that's where you're like, oh, wow, that's, like, kind of like the eccentricities of the internet. But when you think about it, it's like, well, who cares? Like, she was still investigating this guy that was...
Yeah, it was
she's not stupid just because her name's Bodhi Moving.
It was a time and a place where anonymous handles were more common.
Yeah,
well.
and this was definitely that time. A couple of things that I think are unfortunate about it.
Yeah.
The title.
Yeah.
The title does not make you want to watch it. And in fact, the only reason we watched it was because I accidentally put the preview on Netflix and was like, oh, this is not at all what I thought this would be
You
about.
are, in fact, mistaken there. I had several friends recommend it to me, and I spent several weeks saying, why don't we watch Don't F with Cats? And you were like, what is that? I don't care. I don't want to know.
Oh, well, there you go. See? So, but when I saw the preview, I was like, oh, okay. It's a really stupid name for such a serious subject.
I think it might...
It's trying to riff off the internet rules of... What rule is don't F with cats?
I didn't know that was one of the rules of the internet, but it sounds like one of the rules.
It's one of the rules of the internet. Yep. Is basically don't F with cats. So it's riffing off that, which now, to be honest, is a pretty old list.
Oh, yeah, there'd be half the world's population, online population, who aren't even aware anyone wrote rules in the internet in the 90s.
Yeah.
And they're not really applicable anymore either. Although Rule 34 will always hold up. But
what's that?
there is porn of it.
Oh. So don't let the title turn you off. I did too, and this was probably more because after I watched it and was like, oh, I feel like I know who this killer is, and I Googled it and I was like, oh yeah, he's that guy. Because I mean, he's a really brutal killing, and they don't really talk very much about the victim, Junlin, who was very, very brutally and savagely murdered. And I think, you know, there needs to be a bit more... I just thought the focus maybe on the cats over the actual human was...
Oh, yeah, that's a whole bunch of complicated, which...
I don't know how I feel about that.
In their way, they do actually, you know, that's the reality. Like, you know, as I recall it, he wasn't entirely a pleasant character in his own right.
No, there was nothing wrong with him.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm thinking of something else. Okay.
He was just an international student who did a hookup on Tinder or whatever was around whenever this, like, Grindr, I think.
Yeah.
And got murdered.
Yeah, well, that's always the fear for anyone on those things, isn't it?
And, like, murdered in a very brutal fashion.
Yeah.
So that maybe is a bit of a flaw, but I don't think I don't think it detracts from the actual watchability.
I think the guts of the story is the random people in their living rooms wearing their dressing gowns and slippers, meeting up and talking about what they know and hunting for clues, which is always one of those bizarre things. Like in the real world, you look for evidence, but there aren't clues that you follow from one to the other.
And it does have that element of, oh my god, I could be a sleuth at home. Like, I could be like them. But then I look at them and I'm like, no, I could never have done that because they spent literally hundreds of hours chasing down all these dead ends.
I'm not sure you can have a partner and be truly part of one of these groups because your partner would just be like, what are you doing when you come in for
I'm
dinner?
trying to look up who sells a yellow vacuum cleaner in Canada. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I've gone to all the stores online.
But there probably is a place in this world, and it's harnessed poorly, and at the moment, you know, one case gets people's attention and gets solved, and other cases don't get attention, so they don't get solved. You know, for these people who are a little bit lonely, but very smart to actually tackle some of these problems.
Yeah.
Um,
What are you going to give it?
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't know we were finished talking about.
Oh, sorry, keep going. No, we can keep going.
No, I think it's a weird but really interesting story. I think it's told pretty well. I think the documentary makers, you can argue with some angles they took in places, but they, trying to tell a story without forcing the interviews into the story is always
bloody happy that finally someone can find something down to just 3 episodes instead of dragging it
Oh,
out.
the 10th episode, yeah. I think Netflix is learning some lessons as it goes along on that.
Yeah.
Anywho, so I'm going to give this 4 solid stars, and I think it's a pretty fair show to truck on early on
It's a good, good ISO show.
Yeah.
Like, you'll smash through it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really torn at the moment whether to give it 4 or 5.
Ooh.
I'm going to give it 4.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's 5-star material. I think that would be inflating it unnecessarily. But it's a good solid outing and a pleasant diversion of an evening.
Yeah. It's unfortunately titled.
Yes, and so moving on to Administrivia, we are still working on our pandemic review show.
Someone doesn't want to watch pandemic movies, though.
And
it's not me.
I'm up for one more.
No, we've got to watch millions more. It's got to be like... Maybe we should just...
We only do 3 in an episode, though.
No, but we could just defy all the... We could be genre-defying.
Okay. All right, would we do that as a Facebook Live podcast, or...
No, I don't want to be filmed.
No, you don't have to be filmed.
Well, how do you do Facebook? We'll work out these details later.
Point the camera at the ceiling. We just put a slide in.
I had someone today on a video conference.
Actually, we could put some video into the background into the Zoom meeting. So it's,
someone today at work didn't really like their makeup, so they stuck a post-it note with a little face on it over the video camera right above their head, so it's like a little face. We could do that.
Hey, okay, all right, we're full of ideas. Okay, dear listeners, thank you for sticking with us. If you've got any comments you'd like to make to us, do please email gmtrpodcast@gmail.com or comment on the Facebook or the Twitter or the YouTube comments for our brave band of people who digest this podcast via YouTube. And on that note, I think we're just about done, huh?
We're done.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
Have a great time till we speak to you again, folks.